Hello everybody, Hakobo here. Today, it's time for
Cheeseburger.
and here's what we're cooking up today. If you look too, you'll notice that this chain is very basic. Even down here, you'll see I don't have any effects going on. I figured it was time for something simple that's fun to play with, that you guys can make right away. That being said, let's go ahead and make a new patch and get right into the bass. The wavetable that's going to mostly give us this sound is going to be the vowel sound ML Addy Funk, which we're going to be FMing from B later with basic ward. We're going to direct out a sub, just because we're going to want sub later. And now we're going to start shaping our LFOs. The LFOs are pretty simple. We're going to have one that's going to be a ramp for a couple of parameters that we're going to turn on trigger and knock down to 1/2. The next one, we're going to do a simple wobble here on the first line and knock this down to 1/2 and trigger as well. And this is going to be used to shape a lot of the modulation that we're using. And then the third one's going to be how we're messing with the pitch. And this one's going to have this line second box down that we're going to just slightly curve up like so, and then turn it down to 1/2 and put on trigger. Next, let's turn the randomization off for the phase and turn it on this, what I assume is exponential setting, in order to get rid of the phasiness. And then we're just going to add a bit of detune to the first oscillator and turn that on down to 0.05. Then let's go ahead and cut the volume on this and add an FM from B. Go ahead and take to 37%. And we're not going to mess around or modulate it, and we're actually going to leave it alone. The reason we're doing this is it's just going to add some crunchiness later. And then for our first modulation, we're going to go ahead and take the very first LFO here and just have it go completely around the wavetable. And then after all that work, we finally get this. We're going down to the high pass with peaks, and we're going to go ahead and turn this frequency all the way up to get it over there. And we're then going to turn up the resonance to 48% to get these little bumps. After that, we're going to take our second LFO. We're going to turn this cut up to 4978, and then take this LFO and turn it counterclockwise 40. And then when we start playing, what we're also going to do is take this LFO and bring this down 30 on the frequency for the peak, so they kind of move together. Awesome. Now, in order to get that cool pitch, we're going to also go into our matrix. Go ahead and put this on our third LFO. That's to shape our master tuning, which is found in the global. And then we're going to go ahead and move this to the right 19. And that should give us our... So that's the pitch shape that we're looking for. So let's go ahead and get some effects on there. We are just going to use the chorus, which we're going to knock down the rate, turn up the low pass filter and the mix, knock this down to 1.7, and knock this up to 1. And that's just going to really widen it out, which I think for this sound works a lot. Next up, we're going to add some distortion, which we turn this down to 20. We're going to put this onto the synfold, and we're going to use our ramp to go ahead and bring this in over time, because we kind of want this to only hit the last part of the sound, which kind of makes it cool. But in order to dial back some of the noise that we've created in that, we're going to go ahead and turn down the Q all the way to 0.1, and then maybe just a little bit of the top of 0.1. There we go. And then we're going to put this on like 807 or 811 is fine too, and that's going to clean up the sound a lot. Next up, we're just turning on the compressor, and all we're going to do is turn on the multiband. Last but not least, let's get a little bit of EQ going. And with this, we're going to create our notch and peak movement. For this one, we're going to put it on 329, knock up the gain to 10. And we're going to leave the Q the same. We're going to go ahead and take our LFO that makes this motion and put it on the frequency, move it clockwise to 24. And that's going to help make more of that vowel come out. Next, we're going to go ahead and knock this up to around 9411, bring the gain down at 13, and then we're also going to tighten up the Q a bit. Be sure to put this on the notch, and then we're going to have this one move down this about 30. And that's going to add even more to it. And that's all it takes. A couple things you can do to mess with it. Maybe turn down the octave of the FM to get a really low grimy sound. Like I said, I wanted to keep this one simple so you guys can kind of mess with it as much as you want with your distortions and your plugins. So that about does it for this one. I'm going to be throwing this sound and a bunch of other sounds from that project up on my Patreon, which is going for just $3 if you want to get over 100 sounds for both Serum and Vital. It's a pretty sweet deal. If you want to help out this channel, it's the best way to support me. I also have a Discord server where you can drop your stuff and get to know some other artists, so if you want to kind of get more involved in the community, go ahead and look in the description to get a link to that. Otherwise, thanks for stopping by.